Riverfront Redevelopment, thank you. Trust to order. I'm Don Casperite, Vice Chairman, and Gary Mars is out on vacation, so I'll be taking the chair for him today. Under item 2, items from the chairman, Gary gave me none and I have none at this point. So we'll move on to item 3, which is the minutes from our last meeting. Are there any comments or corrections to it?
Move approval.
Been moved and seconded. No question. Please cast your vote.
Mr. Chairman, as we get started, would it be all right if I introduced Miguel Payan? Miguel, would you stand up, please? He is our Ward 6 Youth Council, one of the 2 Ward 6 Youth Council members. And over the course of the next 9 months, I guess, he'll be reporting on Ward 6 boards and commissions and the Ward 6 happenings in Ward 6. So we'd like
to have you with us.
Yeah, glad you're here.
Moving on to item 4, our consent docket. Item A is to receive our oil and gas report. Any comments on it?
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, record your vote. Okay. Item is approved. Item B is to receive the Oklahoma River Corridor events update. Do you care to make comments? Any comments from anyone?
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please record your vote. Item is approved. Item 5, primary agenda items. Item A is to receive the Oklahoma River Maintenance Project updates.
Good afternoon, trustees, Mr. Vice Trustee. My name is Sam Slayton. I'm with Public Works Construction Project Manager, and I'm here to give the report for Public Works. Item number 1 is an update on the project MB0937 Phase 2, which is our new river maintenance facility. Project has final plumbing and fire suppression systems inspected. It's substantially complete, and we believe final acceptance will be completed within about 30 days. Item number 2 is the Oklahoma River hydraulic maintenance and repair. We've had a couple of issues this past month. For starters, we had some custom lifting harnesses built for lifting the really oversized hydraulic cylinders inside the river maintenance facility. So because they have to be stored in a semi-vertical position, and we took delivery on those. We also took delivery on 24 speed pins, which are currently we have to put in nuts and bolts and lock them down the struts when we have a hydraulic failure, and that's not really practical when we have a failure in place. So we purchased some speed pins to be able to just knock them in and put a pin in place to hold them there and get people out of harm's way. On August the 9th, we had a low oil shutdown scenario happen at the Brum Dam. We responded and found that the system was low on oil. We added the oil. Everything came back up to normal. We couldn't detect any leakage in the river or cylinder leaking, so we're still trying to figure out where that oil went. We found that we had a pump that was leaking a minuscule amount of oil, but we don't need that happening, so we had the pump replaced on August the 24th. On August the 10th, we had another failure at Paul Brum Dam, and it was a low pressure shutdown. Turns out that the pressure limit switch, which controls the pumps, they turn the system on when the pressure reaches a certain low point, and they turn it back, turn the pumps off again when it reaches the high pressure. That switch after 14 years went out, and we We replaced it on August the 22nd. Moving on to the third item is the Oklahoma River Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System. We installed a new software. It's titled PRTG, which monitors the supervisory control software, and it takes it all the way down to the even a printed circuit board. If we have one fail, this software will identify it. It shortens our time in getting that item repaired. We're updating the current supervisory control and data acquisition microwave network and giving us a multi-tier communication so that we will have the ability to automatically switch over to a secondary or even a third communication so that we never lose contact with the river. Currently, they are working on hooking up the cameras at the new facility and with multiple pan-tilt zoom cameras so that we can monitor the building and the boat ramp and everything else. We're adding access control cards and readers at the gates to get us in and out, and connecting to the supervisory control, which allows key personnel access to the camera views remotely. My final item is the riprap repair. The river maintenance crews are continuing to replace riprap that was identified by the Corps of Engineers report, and they are still making progress on that. At this point in time, I'm going to introduce Eric Winger, the Director of Public Works, to give the final update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have one final item for your consideration today, and it's really an update on the structural repairs on the May Avenue dam and lock system. I know there's been a number of questions over the past couple of months about some of the work that has been completed, also some of the history on the item, and then really what we're going to do is next steps. And so this really is going to kind of go back to 2012, and so part of this PowerPoint is going to show you some of that reporting. And as Sam mentioned, you know, the dams themselves are now exceeding 15, 16, 17 years old, and we are finding that there's more and more needed maintenance. And so this report, which we actually engaged White Engineering to do, was to really investigate the first needs of the May Avenue Dam. And the purpose of the investigation was to start putting together a projects list for us of things that we needed to be aware of coming up into the near future. Now, this is something that would apply to all the dams. We have not pursued that on the other two at this moment, but right now what we'll talk about is just the May Avenue. So some of your findings, and this is some of the work that we've done at each of the dams, but really the work is really consistent between all three. You're going to see that we have concrete cracking that's starting to occur, and that's natural for concrete to do. This would be the same that would occur on a bridge. Just because there's a crack doesn't mean there's a failure. We simply just need to go in and do a repair of that crack. In a lot of cases, it's an epoxy-based system that we can actually squirt into that crack and make those better. There's vertical expansion joints that are starting to leak and lose their seals. These would just be the large rubber seals. If you've taken one of the boat cruises, you might have seen some of these in some of the locking systems. But we're also starting to see some deterioration of some of the metal, starting to not fatigue, but we're also seeing it starting to rust and deteriorate, which is we're going to require some repainting. And then you'll finally see down at the bottom on May Avenue where we're starting to see what's called a grout pad. This would just be some of the sealants and some of the cementitious materials that we use to caulk in types of joints. They're starting to deteriorate at this time as well. So this is the May Avenue Dam. This would be looking to the north. It's a 6-gate system. It's very similar to the Brum Dam. The Eastern Dam is a little bit different. I don't have pictures of that for you today, but it's a 3-gate system at Eastern. It's a much larger door that's on those. But you'll see relatively, from a perspective of a photo, I mean, they operate daily. They do what they're supposed to do. They create those 3 low-water lakes, and we do keep them serviced, even though I'm going to show you some pictures of some of the details. This is looking back in the other direction. Again, you see the stairs that are on there. That's really just for crew access, to be able to access components of those dams if needed. We don't find ourselves having to get out quite as often. We've done quite a bit of preventative maintenance in the past, and it's predominantly on the cylinders. The cylinders are the yellow structures that you see with the aluminum covers on the end at about a 45-degree angle. They're the ones that are kind of angled up against each of those concrete. Those are what actually actuate the dam doors themselves, that raises and lowers those. This is a typical picture of what one of the bar locks look like. You'll see a lot of the handrail systems. A lot of the systems were made to be anti-corrosive, and so that's what you find with a lot of the galvanized materials that are out there. But we do have some painted surfaces, and I'll show you some of those painted surfaces. But some of the other things that you're seeing is just the need for general cleaning. We're starting to see just algae growth and some things that are just pretty natural in a river setting. This is one of the lock doors, and so as we kind of look at these and we talk about some of the different seal systems, you can see that these doors generally keep the water on the side that it's supposed to be on when we're draining or emptying, but we are starting to experience some leaks in some of those grout areas, and that's what you're finding at the bottom of the door. These leaks aren't keeping the river from operating properly, but it is something that's on this maintenance list that we do need to tend to. This is concrete spalling. This is not common, but it does happen to concrete. It typically occurs in a freeze-thaw cycle, so when we do experience a small crack, it gets some water introduced into that. Winter months come in, it freezes, turns it into ice, it pops that concrete out. The structure is sound, but it is something that we need to go back and make that repair. The repair is simply cleaning that material, putting up a new form, placing that new concrete in there, and restoring it to its original condition. These are some of the pins and the hinges that are used on those giant doors, and what we're finding too is that some of the metal structures are starting to show some of the age. This is a lot of the painting that we've talked about on the previous contracts. In the absence of paint, it exposes that metal to the elements, and simply we get some rusting conditions. And so these are the areas that really require some sandblasting and new paint. And then this is just algae growth, and this is on the top of one of the gates. And so you can see there's two different water levels here. On the left would be the higher water level, on the right is the lower water level, but we're starting to see quite a bit of algae growth, and that's just maintenance and cleaning. One of the other things that you'll see is you'll see these small triangular shapes on the edge of that gate. They're actually some energy dissipators that allow that flow to be reduced slightly if we have the water going over the top of the gate. You'll notice that several of them are missing. So between the one that you see at the bottom of the picture and the two that you see at the top, there's several that are missing in there that have been lost just due to some of the high rains and different activities that have occurred. So part of the maintenance is to replace those. This just shows some more of that steel corrosion. Again, in the absence of paint, it introduces rust. This is rust that simply is starting to scale. We need to remove that scale and repaint some of the systems. But again, it's not a structural concern at this point. It's really more just a general maintenance item. This is a miter gate. This actually is on the side of the dams. It's not a part of the actual dam itself, but it is part of the dam, but it's not part of the door system. This is a gate that raises and lowers as needed. We're finding that some of the seals in these are also in needed replacement. And then this is part of the hydraulic system, and we've had some maintenance activities on the hydraulics, as we've mentioned in the past, where we're replacing cylinders. But we do need to go do some additional maintenance on some of the piping and some of the connections. This just shows their current condition. This is only accessible by crew, so this isn't a place that's publicly accessible, and it's actually hard to see from the shoreline, but this is what we're seeing in the field. Really, some of the maintenance that needs to be done is just cleaning and repacking some of the protective materials around these tubes and these pipes that enter into the gate itself. This is another just photo of some of the corrosion. One of the things that Sam mentioned is we have some of these speed pins, and we're able to lock the gates shut if we find that we're having a hydraulic issue. But this is the connecting portion of that where you can see, again, some of the loss of steel at that connection that needs to be serviced. So looking at the history, we have bid this project at May Avenue twice. The original one is in November of 15. We had an estimated construction cost of $650,000, and the low bid came in at $1.7 million, significantly over our budget. And it was all the things that I just expressed to you. It's pressure washing, cleaning the surfaces, the repainting, the resealing, all the different mechanical items that were part of that photo set. We then revised the scope of work. We reduced the amount of work that we were anticipating. Some of the challenges that we've run into, working in the Oklahoma River, there's a lot of regulations that play when we go to sandblasting and painting. We're simply not able to sandblast that material and let it fall into the water. It has to be caught and removed. A lot of the paint materials also have to be aquatic compatible. We can't simply just take any brand of paint and paint along the river. So we have engaged additional help to help us identify what's needed to allow us to advance. But we thought we had that correct when we rebid the project in November of 2016, only to find out it still came in over budget. Now, less over, but still it was over the budget that we could award the contract. So what are we going to do next? We are finding that there's a lot of things that we can do just with our routine maintenance and our existing crews. And those would be part of our preventative maintenance programs where we can actually go out and do a lot of the service. We do a lot of our debris removals. Our crews are able to replace most of the valves and things that Sam had mentioned where we maybe find a leak or a pump or some activity. We're also able to service much of the SCADA control system that talks to the dams from the computers. The in-house repairs also could include pressure washing, but we also would engage possibly some annual contractors to help us with some of that maintenance. So the things that would be over and beyond what a typical city crew could provide, we might be able to do under smaller unit price contracts. We also believe that we could probably purchase a lot of the materials directly, like a lot of the seals, and then, of course, also just working with the river activities to make those installations at times that were convenient for the boathouse district and other activities. But we're looking to possibly revise the bidding documents for the work that we simply can't cover. And I will tell you that we continue to work with consultants to find the best way to do that. So our intent is to be able to go back out for a bid, but also supply some in-house crew work to supplement that while we make sure that we keep the dams and the locks in good working order. So with that, I can answer any questions that you might have, but that'll be the update that we have today to show you the current condition, kind of where we've been in the past and how we're planning to progress in the future.
Yes, Paul?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions. We've never had a river before, up until a few years ago. Don't you think that some of this stuff should be done on an annual basis, on a regular basis? Have we checked with other places that maybe have dams that we've never had before to find out how they maintain their situations?
So we do, and I will tell you that the original design with the consultants actually had a list of annual maintenance items that are items that we are doing. And so some of the things that we've done in the most recent past, before waiting for one of the cylinders to fail on a door, where we've actually had issues where you've heard that we've lost the entire lake. A door failed and let all the water out. We actually have those on a schedule now to replace those cylinders before failure, making sure that we don't have that occurrence. We're also doing more regular oil changes. One of the things that we found is that that oil that operates those hydraulics gets dirty. We had never changed it before until just a few years ago. But what I will tell you is that we've actually put in a not just preventative maintenance, but also a preventative operational plan to start replacing systems, having them serviced much earlier on a more regular schedule. We are using consultants to hopefully help us identify things like these painting systems and some of these things we have not done yet. So we are reaching out.
Okay. My other question, looking at this paperwork and the budget of $650,000, you had a bid in November of 2015 of $1.7 million, and then in November of 2016, from a totally separate company, we have a bid of $1.4 million, again on a budget of $650,000. Isn't there a message there somewhere that maybe our budget needs to be increased if we're going to maintain these things properly?
So I think, yes, that would be one option. One of the other options that we believe is that we have some additional consultants we haven't engaged formally. So the specs that were previously written were also written by White Engineering, who's our local structural engineer. We believed that they had engaged some of the expertise that was needed, but clearly when it came to the painting systems and the paint removal, we found after reviewing with both of those bidders that those were two of our highest priced items that were driving the project out of the budget. So it was less the seals and the more traditional maintenance that we're more familiar with, and it was more those two specialty systems with the painting system itself. So we're looking for an alternative to the painting system.
Any other questions, Mr. Winger? Appreciate your report. If there are no further questions, is there a motion to receive?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please cast your vote. Item is approved. Thank you. Item 5B is to receive an update on proposed improvements to Manuel Perez Park, south of the Oklahoma River, from Robinson Avenue east to Lightning Creek Inlet.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Trustees, Doug Cupper, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services. As we're progressing through our design discussions with the neighborhoods and things along those lines, staff discovered that when we came before City Council and Park Board and the River Trust, we failed to include a 30-acre parcel that we had been intending to have be part of Manuel Perez Park, and that's the area east of the Rose Circle. You see on your maps and your handouts, you can see that we intended for the Manuel Perez Park to go all the way from Robinson all the way to the creek inlet on the Oklahoma City River. The previous maps that you saw and that you approved in action stopped just east of that Rose, where the Rose art piece used to be on that circle drive that's there on Southeast 17th Street. So again, this is more of a clerical error on our part. We just want to bring it up and make it officially part of the Manuel Perez Park. It's kind of landlocked otherwise, and in our discussions with the neighborhoods for designing Manuel Perez Park, we have included this real estate as part of the design phase. So be happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions from anybody? If not, is there a motion to receive his report?
So move.
Been moved and seconded. Cast your vote, please. Item carries. Thank you. Moving to item C is to receive unaudited interim financial statements for the period ending June 30th, 2017. Any questions? Any comments from anyone?
Move to receive the report.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Cast your vote, please. The item is approved. Item D is to receive correspondence from Allen Gibbs and Horlick LC regarding fiscal year 2016-17 Oklahoma City Riverfront Redevelopment Authority audit. Any comments, any questions from anybody there? Been moved and seconded. Cast your vote, please. The item is approved. Thank you. Item E is the limited revocable rowing and paddle practice use permit with Oklahoma City Boathouse Foundation for use of a portion of the eastern basin of Oklahoma River, weekdays only from October 1, 2017 through September 30, 2018. Marcia, you have a comment for us?
Yes, within this revocable paddle permit, we have referred to Hornblower, and Hornblower is now known as HMS Ferries, Inc. So I would like to amend you all to amend the paddle permit to include HMS Ferries, Inc. instead of Hornblower.
Any comments, questions from anyone? If not, is there approval to a motion to approve this with Marcia's amendment? So moved. Been moved and seconded. Record your vote, please. Item is approved. Thank you. Moving to item F, which is amendment number 4 to lease agreement between the City of Oklahoma City and the Oklahoma City Riverfront Redevelopment Authority. Dennis, you have some comments for us?
I'll kind of kick this off. Mr. Chairman, members of the trust, as I'm sure you know, the Humphreys family acquired the old downtown air park south of the river, west of Western, several years ago, and have been working with city staff for probably the last at least 2 years on the type of development that they want to do there and some issues having to do with some of the property along the river. I'm going to ask Amanda Carpenter, who is with the Municipal Counselor's Office, to give you just a brief history on that and exactly what this amendment to the lease agreement entails.
Sure. Back in January of 2017, City Council approved the Western Gateway project plan, which is the redevelopment of the Wheeler District. That's the property laying south of the Oklahoma City River on both primarily the eastern side of Western, but the plan does provide for some development on the western side of Western also. It includes the residential, commercial, and mixed-use development, along with the possibility of constructing a new school in the area. The City of Oklahoma City has been negotiating with the Wheeler District LLC to accomplish this project plan, and part of those negotiations include the swapping of property between the two entities, the City of Oklahoma City and Wheeler District LLC. The matter that's before the trust today is to amend the trust agreement between the City of Oklahoma City Riverfront Development Authority to take out 14 acres and replace that with 32 acres that we would expect to receive as part of the swap. You'll see there's a diagram that was provided, I believe, by Mr. Birch today that has the yellow property indicated. That's the property that is city-owned, that will be transferred to Wheeler District LLC under the agreement if council approves that agreement when it goes in, I believe, late September, early October. The green property, which is approximately 32 acres, is the property that's going to be received from Wheeler District and will be provided to the city of Oklahoma City for park uses. Back in 1950s, the property that's designated in yellow was acquired using GEO bond funds for park purposes. That property has been surplus by the Park Commission and by City Council, so that property can now be swapped along with the old helicopter, I guess it's the hangar, thank you, the helicopter hangar. Those properties will be swapped for fair market value for the 32 acres that we will receive from the Wheeler District plus additional monetary value to make sure that what's being swapped, what's being traded is of equal value. After we acquire the property will be formally dedicated for park purposes and will be, as part of this amendment, within the purview of the trust. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Amanda?
Amanda, on this illustration, it appears that we've retained the frontage right along the river, which I assume is where one of our trails is, and so there is retainage.
Yes, that's
by
correct.
the city directly along the riverfront.
The city will retain the 25 feet along the riverfront on both east and west side of Western Avenue. That is for not only the trail on the eastern side, but also to be able to maintain the riprap for the river. On the western side of Western Avenue, we will not only retain the ownership to the 25 feet, but we will also be retaining an easement from Wheeler District LLC for the location of our trail, because the trail is set back a little further from the river, so that trail can continue to be used and operated by the city of Oklahoma City and its citizens.
In addition to that, if you actually measure the physical distance between the north line of Tract 1 and the riprap, it actually varies from about 38 to 43 feet. There's actually a little bit more physical space in there than the 25. The trail does lie within that, and there's plenty of room for us to get in there and maintain whatever we need to do with the river. Also, when the equestrian facility that's planned down by Agnew gets kicked off and maybe expands, and there's a horse trail needs to be done, there should be enough room within that to do that as well.
The Wheeler District LLC is on notice that is part of our plan, and that we hope that will occur.
They're fully aware of the maintenance needs and the existing trail. Whether it's been conveyed to them, the possibility of a horse trail, I am not sure. Leslie Batchelor is here. She's the attorney for the Wheeler District, and she's telling me that, yes, it has been conveyed.
I'd be glad to answer any questions. In fact, there had been some exchange between Blair Humphreys and staff about sort of minimum widths for horse trails to make sure that there was enough space, as Mr. Clowers indicated. On behalf of Blair Humphreys, I just want to say how sorry he is he could not be here today. He looks forward to presenting more about the plans to you at a future meeting, but had a conflict he just couldn't unwind. But he did want me to state two things, if I could. One, just to reaffirm Wheeler District's commitment to helping implement the vision, as we understand it, of this trust, as reflected in the Oklahoma River Master Plan, to create a mixed-use neighborhood there, and that really one of the shining amenities is that river connection. So the easement will state that we will ensure the continuity of a pedestrian and biking connection and any other connections that need to be placed there on the river. And then it'll be a while before the eastern side is developed, but once it is, want to work with the city if that trail needs to be moved onto that space that Mr. Clowers indicated, so that you get both the development to the south and a good, strong, well-maintained connection right at the river.
Thank you, Leslie. I just want to make sure there weren't any surprises.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Leslie, I'm sorry. I apologize. What is this just north of this 32 acres? What is that a retention pond?
Yes, right now it's rather a wetlands area.
Okay. And is that going to stay that way?
It will stay that way.
Okay. Thank you.
So are there any plans for the 32 acres right now? I mean, it turns into park property, correct? Are there?
It does have the park designation, and I know that the Parks Director has looked at all of the possibilities. It's currently being used as soccer fields, so it could continue to do that, but there's also the possibility of future development in that area.
Any other questions? Thank you both. Nice to see you. If there are no more questions, is there a motion to approve this lease agreement?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Please record your vote. Approved, thank you. Moving on to item 6, claims. Been moved and seconded. If there are no questions, please record your vote. Item is approved. And number 7, additional items, comments by the staff. Number 1 is our Parks and Recreation Department Director, Doug.
Again, good afternoon. We had some excitement this last month. David Birch has been busy making sure that your properties are being managed properly. We've discovered some new areas of illegal dumping and things along those lines, but David and other members of the park staff are working on a game plan to work with the police department and things along those lines to try to curtail some of the illegal dumping that's going along. The zoo has also agreed that the use of the color wars or the color starch that you approved a couple of months ago, that we no longer will allow those for special events along the river. The zoo and the Water Trust have validated that as well as on their property. So unless there's other questions, I request that you accept our report as filed.
Doug, it looks like there's a note in your report that maybe this Lost Lakes area is encouraging camping.
Well, during the most recent concert that occurred with the Insane Clown Posse and their followers, much to the chagrin of our leaseholders, the Skiing and Lost Lakes LLC, some of them came in the middle of the night and proceeded to camp on your property, which is not allowable. And we just wanted to make sure we put it in writing on your behalf that, further occurrences, other concerts or long-term concerts, this was, I think, a 4-day concert, they don't allow camping in those undesignated areas on your behalf.
Are they allowing camping on their property?
They were allowing camping on their property, and there is a certain portion of your property that it is allowable, but it's north of 10th Street, and this camping that was alluded to in here was happening south of 10th Street. So we just want to make it clear going forward, get it on the record, so if it happens again, we'll take the next level of action as it relates to the lease that we have with them.
Any further questions? Thank you, Doug. If there are no further questions, is there a motion to receive his report?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Record your vote. Thank you. The item's approved. Any comments by trustees? Anyone? Anyone in the audience care to be heard today?
Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to just call to your attention a couple of quick things. First, we were just awarded the Paddle Sports Expo conference that will occur next year, next August. It's the largest of its kind in the country. It'll take over the Cox Center and come to the river. They're only coming because of the river and the Whitewater Center, and it's the kind of thing you would have thought would never have happened in Oklahoma City. It's usually in Salt Lake City and Denver, those kinds of places. So I think that's going to be a great thing for us. Part of this is we've had a video that was produced that has gone viral with over nearly 6 million views now of the Whitewater Center and 60,000 comments from people all over the country saying they want to come to Oklahoma City. So it's been pretty interesting to see the national response when people see this venue. Many think it's not real, but we assure them it is real. So, and I will say also as another interesting development. I mean, unfortunately, our friends in Houston, with all their struggles that are going on with the floods, we did just note that the City of Guyman has authorized their fire department to go down and help because they were trained in Riversport Rapids in the last month. So we're great that the swift water rescue training that is occurring is starting to really be put to use, and hopefully will be helpful. So.
Mike, that's all. As soon as I saw that swift rescue teams were going,
Yeah.
I was thrilled to know that you were doing a lot of the training down there. And it's really an exciting opportunity, and hopefully we get some national coverage from that.
It's all good. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else in the audience have anything to say? If not, I will receive a motion for adjournment. Thank you. Thank you.